Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Today I will show you how to create a network topology by using Cisco Packet Tracer. So first I will show you how to create a network topology, then I will show you how to configure routers, that means the basic router configurations. After that I will show you how to configure static route and the default route, and then I will also discuss when the two devices in a same network can communicate each other and why the two devices in different network cannot communicate each other, and how actually they communicate each other if the two devices in two different networks, or what they need to communicate each other if they are the two different networks. So let's see first how we can create a network topology. So to do that, so I will use the router 2911 series router. So let's bring three routers in your screen, the window of the packet tracer, and rename them. So the router 2, rename it router 3, router 1, rename it router 2, and router 0, rename it to router 1. Then add another network device. So for example, switch 2960, and rename this switch to the switch 1. So now connect them, these network devices, using straight through cable. So the switch 1, so the gigabit Ethernet 01 to router 1 gigabit Ethernet 01, and then router 1 gigabit Ethernet 00 to router 2 gigabit Ethernet 01, and router 2 gigabit Ethernet 00 to router 3 gigabit Ethernet 01. Now connect some end devices or some computers. So for example, in this case I am adding 3 laptops in the topology. So again, rename them to the laptop number 3, then laptop number 2, and laptop number 1. And then again connect them to the switch and the router. So laptop 1, first Ethernet 0 to switch first Ethernet 01, and laptop 2, first Ethernet 0 to switch first Ethernet 02, and laptop 3, first Ethernet 02 router 3 gigabit Ethernet 00. So now I have a topology, and it has 3 routers, 1 switch, and the 3 laptops. Then I will show you how to configure, how to assign the IP address to the laptop, how to assign IP address to the routers, and how the devices can communicate each other. So let's consider in these networks. So the IP address I am using here is 192.168.10.0 networks / 24, these networks. Let me make the font little bigger. Okay, now the font size is bigger, so it looks better. So now let's configure the laptop 1 with IP address. So go to the desktop, IP configuration. So assign the IP address 192.168.10. For example 100. Subnet mask 255.255.255.0, which is the class C subnet mask. Then configure the IP address to laptop 2. Again, go to the desktop, IP configuration, IP address 192.168.10.101, and subnet mask is again 255.255.255.0. That means the laptop 1 and laptop 2 are both in the same network. So now let's try to ping each other. Let's see they can communicate each other. So command prompt ping 192.168.10.101, and they can communicate each other. See, they can, the computer or the laptop, which is IP address is 192.168.10.1, can reply it back. Now configure the laptop number 3, again desktop, IP address, and this is a different networks. So let's consider this network is 192.168.40.0/24. 0/24. So this is this network. So IP address for this computer should be within this network. So 192.168.40.101, and subnet mask again class C subnet mask. Now let's try to ping from laptop 1 to this laptop. So command prompt, then ping 192.168.40.101. So it cannot ping because this laptop 3 is in the different networks. So to reach this network, so we need to configure the routers and also some routing, like the static route or default route or dynamic routing protocol. But today we will see only the static route and default route. So in this case, so now let's see how we can configure the routers. So first let's open the router 1, go to the CLI mode and make this little bigger, then no, so write enable, and then we need to go to the config mode, CONF, config or configure terminal. Then to configure the IP address, we need to go to the interface mode. So first we will configure IP address to the gigabit Ethernet 01. So to configure the IP address, we need to go to the interface mode. So interface gigabit Ethernet 0/ or 0 front/1, this interface. Enter. So now we need to write our IP address 192.168.10.101. 1, then subnet mask 255.255.255.0, then enter. So now we configure IP address within this network 192.168.10 networks. So the IP address is 192.168.10.1, and then we need to do one more command. It's called the no shutdown. That means to enable this interface, no shutdown. So now this port become up, or state change to up. So now we have done configuration of this port. So let's define which should be the IP, these two more networks. So consider this network is 192.168.20.0/24, and this network 192.168.30.0/24. So now we define the two nets. So the IP address for gigabit Ethernet 00 and gigabit Ethernet 01 of router 2 should be within this network. So now configure the router 1 and interface number gigabit 00. So now exit from this interface and go to the interface number 00. Let's again make it larger. 00. So the IP address should be within this network. So 20.1. So consider IP address is 20.1. IP address 192.168.20.1, then subnet mask 255.255.255.0, then again no shutdown. So now this interface configuration is done. So the next we need to configure the router 2, again the 2 port. So first configure the port, the one is connected to the router 1. So go to the CLI mode and then I say no here. So enable, then config terminal, then we need to go again interface mode. So first this interface, which is gigabit Ethernet 01. So interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1 and IP address 192.168.20.2, then 255.255.255.0, then no shutdown. So now I need to configure another interface, which is gigabit Ethernet 00, but within the network 192.168.30 networks. So let's configure that interface as well. So exit. So again interface 00, then IP address 192.168. So this network is 30 network. So 192.168.30.1, then subnet mask 255.255.255.0, then no shutdown. So this router, that means the router 2 configuration is done. So now go to the router 3. So again CLI mode, no enable config terminal. Now go to the interface mode. So interface mode, first one gigabit Ethernet 01 and network is 192.168.30. So interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1 0/1, this interface. IP address 192.168.30.1. so this interface. So we use the router 2, which is 30.1, so this one should be other than 30.1, so 30.2. then subnet mask 255.255.255.0, then no shutdown. Then we have one more interface which is in this network, 40 networks, so which is gigabit Ethernet 00. So exit from this interface and let's go to the interface number 00. Then IP address, this is 40 and 1, and then we need to say no shutdown. So if you want to save your configuration, you can just do write, so it will save your configurations. So now all the configuration, all the routers has configured with their corresponding IP address. Let's see, we can ping from router laptop 1 to laptop 3. So go to the laptop 1, command prompt, let's try to ping 192.168.40.101, the IP address of laptop 3. Let's see. See, still it cannot ping. That means the laptop 1 cannot communicate to laptop 3. The reason is they are in two different networks. So to reach to the two different networks, the routers need to forward the packet received from laptop 1 to the laptop 3, but the router 1 has no information about the network 40 192.168.40.0 network as well as 192.168.30.0 networks, because they are not the connected networks. So if you go to the router, this router 1, and if you look at what actually this router have, exit, if I do show IP route, so you can see this router know only 192.168.10 network and 192.168.20 networks. So only these two networks router 1 learn. It know only these two networks. The same way, if you go to the router 3 and do the show IP route, you can see this router only know the network 30 network and network 40 network. That means router 3 doesn't know anything about network 10 and network 20. So they should know all of them. If everyone know every networks, only in that case the laptop 1 can communicate to laptop 3. And to make that possible, we need routing. It called like the static route. We need to configure static route, or default route or dynamic routing protocol. So in this today we will see only the static route and default route. So we will see how we can configure default route in a router so that we can establish connectivity between one laptop to another laptop. Okay, so let's configure the default route from in router 3. Default route in router 3. So the way we configure the default route, so is we configure again config terminal. We need to go to the config mode, config terminal. So config mode, then we need to configure IP route 0.0.0.0 space, then again 0.0.0.0. so that means IP route and 0.0.0 space 0.0.0 means all the networks. Then we need to give for this router next hop IP address. Next hop IP address. So next hop IP address is the IP address of the next router. That means router 2 gigabit Ethernet 00. So the IP address of router 2 gigabit Ethernet 00 is 192.168.30.1. That's we configured couple of minutes before. So 192.168.30.1. So now we configure this default route here from this router so that it can forward it to this router. Okay. So now again in the same way, let's configure the default route in the router 1. Then we'll see what happened. So before that, let's see what we can see in the routing table in this router now. Show IP route. So now you can see it added one more network, so which is this one, the one we just configured, and the via 192.168.30.0. okay, now let's configure again the default route in this router, router 1, or we can configure also the static route here. So if we configure static route, and then we can come here so to see how we can go there. So now let's configure first the default route, then we'll see what happened. Okay, so again config terminal, then IP route 0.0.0.0 space, then 0.0.0.0. then next hop IP address. So for router 1, next hop IP address is router 2, and port number is gigabit Ethernet 01, which is 192.168.20.2. So 192.168.20.2. Now let's see the routing table, what it has in the routing table. Show IP route. So it added one default static route or default route in its routing table. So now let's see, can we ping from laptop 1 to laptop 3? And before that, let's see what have in our router 2. Show IP route. So this router has networks 20 is connected and 30 is connected. This one is connected, is one is 20, one is 30. Now let's try, we can ping to the this router, this computer, laptop 3, one more time. Ping this computer. So still it's showing request timeout. So that means it cannot reach to one end to the other end. So now we configure the router 2, and in router 2 I will configure static route. Router 3 and router 1 I configured default route, but in router 2 I will configure static route. So I will configure 2 static route, one from router 1 so that I can reach in this network, from router 2 so that I can reach this network. So first configure a static route to reach the first network. So IP route, then we need to go to the destination network. So how can we reach to the destination networks? So IP route, then I have to give the destination networks. So what is the destination networks? So destination networks in this case 192.168.10. So IP route 192.168.10.0, then subnet mask 255.255.255.0. So the next parameter is how I can reach there, or how the router 2 can reach there. That means the next hop IP address. For this one, next hop is router 1 and 20, then IP address is gigabit 00 is 192.168.20.1. So 192.168.20.1. So these networks, so to reach these networks, these router will need to go through these networks or through this IP address. Invalid here, 192. Okay, so now configure one more static route, IP route, to the another destination network, which is 40 network. 40 network. One 192.168.40.0 and in this case the destination, that means the next hop address is 192.168.30 192.168 30 dot this network IP address of the router 2 gigabit Ethernet 01, which is 2. Okay, so now this is, so I have configured 2 static route. Let's see what happened. Right, then let's see the show running config. Let's see what I have configured here. So I have configured 2 static route, one for destination is network 10, another is destination at network 40, and subnet mask, and this is the next hop IP address to go through the 20.1, that means next hop address. So router 1, the gigabit ethernet 00, and the 192.168.30.2, that means router 3, gigabit ethernet 01, the IP address configured in this port. So again, you can also see the show IP route to see its routing table, what it has in its routing table. So in its routing table now, it has 192.168.10 one network, so 192.168.20, 192.168.30, and 192.168.40. so it has all the 4 networks in its routing table. Okay, now let's see, we can ping from laptop 1 to laptop 3, laptop 1 to laptop 3. So now let's see what we configured in router laptop 3 and laptop 1 and laptop 2. So now laptop 3, so open the IP configurations. So to reach from one networks to the other networks through the router 3, so we also need to configure the default gateway in the end devices. So the default gateway for laptop 3 is the IP address of gigabit ethernet 00 of router 3, that means 192.168.40.1, so which is the default gateway, that means the IP address of router 3 gigabit ethernet 00, that means the network which is connected to the router's port. So the same way for laptop 1, so the default gateway is this network connected through to the other network by using router 1 and the port number gigabit ethernet 01. So IP configuration, default gateway 192.168.10.1. so this is the IP address of router 1 gigabit ethernet 01. Okay, so the last one is the laptop 2. IP configuration, so default gateway 192.168.10.1. so the IP address of the router interface facing to the networks. Okay, so default gateway, so the default gateway, that means any of the device, any of the packet to go outside of these networks, it will go through this port, that is called the default gateway. So now let's try one more time. We can ping from laptop 1 to the laptop 3. So command prompt, (192.168.40.101), which is the IP address of the laptop 3. So now they can ping each other. So laptop 1 can ping to the laptop 2, so 10.11 I think, right? So let me check. So the IP address of this 10.101. So 101. So it can ping to the laptop 2. It can also ping to the laptop 3, which is in the different network. So if the two device connected in the two different networks, so that means in that case only configuring the IP address in the routers is not enough. The routers have to have some routing information, and to do that we need to configure static route or default route or routing protocol, dynamic routing protocol. We will see how to configure the dynamic routing protocol in next video or another video. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.